What gives K2 its reputation as one of the most dangerous mountains to climb? We will analyze the mountain through maps and testimonies of those who have climbed it. First, however, we recommend that you subscribe to this channel so as not to miss previous and future videos on the highest mountains in the world. The human body is physically and neurologically adapted for a small variable range on or about around 1 atmosphere, or 15 Libra per square inch. This atmospheric pressure is at sea level and contains around 21% oxygen. Humans at 8,000 meters above sea level are way outside the normal physical and neural human safety zone. They are inside an abnormal non-human respiratory environment. Factually, in decompression, for many people and climbers, generally the people that climb Mount Everest are adrenaline junkies, idiots with money, or desperate to get away from their wife or husband, or combination of all. Scaling Everest and shuffling back down, paying Sherpas to haul the oxygen tanks, food, and tent equipment up doesn't achieve anything. It's returning back to the same point where one set off around 4 weeks earlier or however long. The respiratory system of local Sherpas are more adapted than foreigners who pay $60,000 to $70,000 US to purchase a month-long amnesty of peace and tranquility from their wife, or to demonstrate they are not the complete useless fool their wife believes they are. This is not to say Sherpas are adapted to 8,000 meters, but that they have a longer death window. Whichever the foreigner's case, as if any matter, their body is not adapted to normal respiratory function at not just 8,000 meters or higher, but significant elevation below that. Each enters the physical decompression zone, essentially connected to nitrogen dynamics, somewhere between sea level and 8,000 meters. Not unlike the diving bends, but in reverse pressure order. Divers descend into higher and higher water pressure, and on ascent, due to respirating oxygen, have to readapt and stabilize their body to a number of pressure margins. Solo divers that swim down to 300 meters or more without breathing and back up don't have to decompress, provided they don't drown. On K2, however, the difficulties are much greater than on Everest. The ego is no longer enough. Massive technical and physical preparation is also required. The two big killers of K2 are the steepness and the weather. The steepness makes for a much more technical climb, but also makes avalanches, rockfalls, and icefalls more common. Compound that with the fact that a lot of the routes go through treacherous gullies like the infamous bottleneck, where if the mountain throws an avalanche at you, there's just nowhere to escape to. It's like you're climbing down the barrel of a gun, hoping you can get to the end before the bullet comes. The Abruzzi Spur has an average gradient of 43 degrees with a vertical cliff between camps 2 and 3. The gradient decreases on the shoulder, but that ends at about 7,500 meters before ramping up again. It has been described as a mountain on top of a mountain. It's almost unrelenting in its steepness, even on its easiest route. It's got worse and more unstable weather than any other of the tallest peaks. It's extremely remote. It likes to drop rocks on people. The effort, time, cost, distance, and sense of achievement tempts people to take risks they wouldn't on easier and more accessible peaks. That is just part of the chimney. The Black Pyramid is a section of the Abruzzi Spur route up K2. It is between camps 2 and 3 at the upper section of the climb. It is much safer to climb this rock section than the ice chutes to the left or right. It gets its name as the exposed rock comes to a point toward the top, giving the impression of a pyramid. but it is just a huge mass of steep rock on an arête coming off the main spur. It is the most technically difficult section of the entire climb. It is an extremely steep rock slope jock wall, requiring mixed rock-ice climbing to surmount. The rock, though very steep, is well broken up, which allows for easier climbing than a true wall. But the steepness is persistent, resulting in a great deal of exposure. There is a wall section with a rope ladder attached and a 25-foot ice wall at the very top. The crampon work on mixed rock and ice is difficult. Climbers are always protected by fixed ropes. The east face of K2, also known as the China face, is a sheer wall of rock and ice that rises more than 3,000 meters from the Godwin-Austen Glacier to the summit of the world's second highest mountain. It is widely considered to be one of the most difficult and dangerous faces of any 8,000-meter peak, and has never been climbed or even attempted in its entirety. The east face was first scouted by a Japanese expedition in 1980, but they found no feasible route to the top. Since then, only a handful of climbers have ventured onto the face, mostly to explore its lower sections or to traverse to other routes on the mountain. In 1992, a Polish team led by Jerzy Kukuczka reached an altitude of 7,600 meters on the face, but had to retreat due to bad weather and lack of equipment. In 2001, a Russian team led by Valery Babanov climbed a new route on the lower part of the face, reaching 6,400 meters before descending. In 2019, a Spanish team led by Alex Chicon explored the face in winter, hoping to find better conditions than in summer, but concluded that it was impossible to climb. There are a few reasons why East Face is so formidable. It is very steep and exposed, with few places to rest or set up camps. The face is constantly threatened by avalanches, rockfall, icefall, and serac collapse, especially in summer when the snow melts and loosens the rocks and ice. The face is also very remote and inaccessible, requiring a long and arduous approach from China through disputed territory. The weather on the face is notoriously unpredictable and harsh, with frequent storms, high winds, and low temperatures. The altitude and lack of oxygen also pose serious challenges for climbers who have to deal with fatigue, dehydration, frostbite, and acute mountain sickness. Given these obstacles, it seems unlikely that anyone will ever climb the east face of K2 in its entirety. However, mountaineering history is full of surprises and achievements that were once thought impossible. According to statistics, K2 cannot be seen 40% of the time in a year, so it is really difficult to climb. Compared with the 7,500 climbers of Mount Everest, there are less than 400 people on K2. The weather can change in a heartbeat in Karakoram because of how far north it is compared to the area Everest is in. So a lot of the tragedies have happened because climbers can just get blown off ridges by 80 miles per hour winds, or their fixed ropes get buried in storm snowfall, or they just get plain lost in whiteout conditions. It's a unique combination for an 8,000-meter peak, although its neighbor Gasherbrum 4 is said to be harder, but just misses out on 8,000 meters, so is rarely climbed. The comparison with Everest is often a must. In summary, Everest, moderately technical. It's pretty much a hike with a few scrambles and exposure. In the cold, at altitude. K2, fully technical. Winter climbing, mixed rock and ice climbing. Multi-pitch big wall rope management. In the cold, at altitude. Everest has a deaths summits rate of about 4%. In comparison, K2's rate is almost 25%. To put this in comparison, it would be proportionally equivalent to 27 NFL players dying in every Super Bowl, or 900 marathon runners dying in each Boston Marathon. Stay far from this mountain. Thank you for watching, and see you the next video.